So Glide just launched workflows, and workflows are triggers that kind of like do a certain task for your business, right? So we have the schedule trigger, and these are triggers that are run at a set interval. Then we have the webhook trigger, and webhook trigger are kind of like you're getting a webhook, so it's kind of like a web receiver. Then you're kind of like doing some functions within your Glide app, and then we have the email trigger, and the email trigger really just varies where we could try to like send emails to users depending on the kind of email we get and from whom, right? So for me personally, I kind of like love this, and my whole idea just like being able to work everything in a single platform without me having to leave Glide and then going over into some other automation platform, right? And while in many use cases, I would still have to consider using those automation platform, but if I'm able to do everything within Glide for a specific task, then I'll do that, right? One of my own very essential use case when using this workflow, right, was the webhook, right? And what I want is probably after um a user of my app, I've made a successful purchase, Stripe would then send an event to me. How I go about this would probably be to use make to kind of like create the whole scenario or Zapier, right? But now I can just like create this within Glide, and that would mean I can like create the payment link in Glide and also edit the table in Glide. So no more external platform to use. And to me, this is incredibly awesome. So what I had here was just to create a simple webhook trigger, and that's just triggered by an incoming webhook request. You kind of like select that, and then you could be kind of like have a single node here or a single action here, right? And what you just want to get is this your specific URL. So this is the webhook URL. Just copy that, and then because I'm using Stripe for my payments, right? I will then head over to Stripe in my developers portal. That will be under webhooks. So what you will probably want to do is to create a webhook endpoint, and I have already done that. I'm just gonna leave your endpoint URL here. That's the URL we just copied, and the event I want to listen to, right, is my session. That's checkout session completed. I just select this and I would then add events, right? But because I already created that already and it worked successfully, that's why I probably want to go through that. And this is my new event here. So these are all successful sessions and everything that's been working as according to plan, which is awesome. Okay, now I have a series of events, and the first here is kind of like a query, right? What this query is really just doing is just like checking. So when you run a webhook trigger, right, you're going to have two tables. Your first table will probably be the workflow run log, and your next table will be the workflow step log. Now, of course, the workflow step log would vary depending on how many steps you have within your app. Like over here, I have about 80 steps, and the only reason why I have 80 steps is only because I have tried to like test how this workflow works, and probably I didn't want to make a mistake, right? So you can see here, I've kind of like been getting success all through, right? So, and the run log is kind of like how many times you've run this log, right? So that's just the basic idea here. Okay, now, so you want a query, and what this query is doing just like getting the last workflow run, and then you'd have a single value, and this single value just like checking the workflow log, right? And what you're checking there is the first, and it really doesn't matter if it's the first or last, but we want to get the payment intent, right? So because I'm running with Stripe, what I had done already was in the workflow log, right? Now, after I run a successful event, I'm kind of like leaving my data within trigger data over here. As you can see, so this is just like my JSON data, right? And I have a JSON pass, and what I'm getting here now is just the payment intent, because what I want to do next is want to be able to edit my billing table that would allow me to know a client has paid, like over here. And what I also want to do is also to be able to show them their specific URL. That's like their payment URL. Okay, so we don't have a payment URL here, but I'm going to show you how we can just get something like that done. Okay, and in order to get that done, I would need to get my payment intent, that's the payment ID. And to do that, I'm just gonna get the value from this trigger data over here, and that was how we arrived here, right? And I also want to get the row ID from um for this specific row, so I can know where this row ID is coming from and how I can edit that table myself. All right. Now I have created this action, right? So this is just getting me the last payment intent of the last row. And then I would also want to get the bill row, that's the bill ID or the bill value of the last row. So that those are the two rows I just explained. Next, I have a query, and what this query is doing is saying from the billing table, that is from the billing table here, right? And what I have here is basically just telling me filter by row ID, where the row ID is, row ID from here. So it's going to get me one value. You know what? Why don't we just check the run log and just to see how this works? Awesome. So you can see here, this is just the query, and then I have my single value payment. You can see this is the ID here, and this is the billing row. This is the bill row ID, and this is just a query that is kind of like getting that row for me, and that's what we had here. And now a single value, what this single value was doing. So this single value is like getting the whole row of that billing table, right? Of that billing row. So just getting the whole row. So we can get some certain value from that specific row. And so I can also write values from that specific row. And then I have a call API. And this call API just what this call API is doing basically just allowing me to access my Stripe API for me to be able to get the latest charge, right? So probably after, so this is probably your endpoint, and you can see the value here is the ID coming from over here, right? And I'll just get request. You kind of like leave your authorization. Now, where do I want to write this? I want to write this value back in single value over here under the payment intent. That's under the billing table. So I have a table here called billing payment intent, and if I head over here now, billing table payment intent over here. So this is where the value is being written on. Okay. Okay, so once I've gotten that now, I also have another query JSON. And what I'm getting next is just the charge ID. Right. So this will be the latest charge of this specific payment intent. And once I've gotten that, that is over here, I will then create another API call that's doing getting me the data of the charge of that specific charge ID. And once I've gotten that, I will then just write the value in the charge JSON over here. And that's really how we did all this. And my end goal, right, is just to get the payment URL. That is just this. And if I copy that and I just run this over here, so see here, this is just the payment I have made. Awesome. So I'm just going to show you an example on how we did this, just to see how perfectly this works. Fine. So now let's make a payment, right? And let's just see how far this would work. Okay, so I want to make a payment for Oliver and Molly. Yeah, right. This is a pet name, and this is the amount. This is just $33. I select here, and I say pay with Stripe. Okay, now I'm opening in a new URL. Now this is a completely different workflow I made. So this is something that I'll probably make a video on later. Okay, so we have a card here, and because this is a test event, I'm just going to head over to Stripe test keys. I'll just copy this, head over here back, and I'll paste this here, and this will be 12 of 27, right? And see, this will be 737, and the name here will just be this name. Okay, I could just use Michael. Okay, and I'll just like pay. And once I pay, I will then be redirected back into my application onto that same page, right? So this is something kind of like how you're working with Stripe API, or I'll probably put you through how to do this in a future tutorial. Okay, and now that we're here, you can see now we have already successfully made payment for this event or for this billing. Okay, and this is our new invoice URL. We could just select that, and we'll be taken over here, and that is really awesome. So we're kind of like leveraging everything within Glide platform now, where we don't have to go outside of Glide to do this basic tasks, and this is awesome. Cheers to Glide, and if you haven't already check out workflows, head over to glideapps.com/workflows to be able to kind of like understand how all this works and even more, and probably could even get your own free trial. And if you need help building your own Glide apps, or probably have a project idea in mind, then please reach out to me here on LinkedIn or probably attach my email in the description below and let's talk about your glide project. Awesome, and it's good to see you.